Good day. Welcome back to Flight Dreams. You can see we're back in our Spitfire, in the livery of Flight Lieutenant Beurling from Canada and the RCAF, the Royal Canadian Air Force. And this is Flight 2 of our Operation Jules Verne around the world in 80 flights. Today we're flying from Paris, from Orly, down to Turin. So let's have a look at the maps. You can see the ground crew is getting ready here. Let's just see what we're up against today. Looks like a beautiful day for flying. High clouds. Paris. This is Turin here. Geneva. And the Alps. So we're going to have to get some altitude today. So let's zoom in here on the sky vector map. Our heading will be 131 degrees, 302 nautical miles to head down to Turin, the Torino airport. Let's have a look here. You can see these numbers here are the minimum safe altitude. They start to climb. There we are, populate. There we go. So 11,500, 7,500 there. Go past to Geneva. Here, Lake Geneva. Hopefully the clouds will hold off. It'll be a great day. 11,500. 16,000, 15,000. So I'm probably going to head out to about 17,000 feet today. See what we get. When we get to Turin, I'll have to come in, head to the far side of the airport, and then loop around in whichever direction we're landing. Just to lose some altitude there. So that's great. Got that chart all ready to go. And Navigraph. This will actually follow us. This chart will show us exactly where we are. Let's look at the airport. Where are we here? Right there with the airport. So let's make this a little smaller. Put it down the corner. And let's hop in and get our Spitfire ready to go. Checklist. Okay, parking brake set. Battery. Move the throttle forward and back. Turns the battery. On prop control. Forward. Fuel tanks on. Oh, that's the brake. Move that out of the way. Fuel tanks on. Bring the stick back. Mixture is cut off. Throttle. Open about a ½ inch. Booster pump. I just have to keep pumping that to make sure that we've got boost ready. When we've got enough there, the red light has gone out. We're fine. Hey, open these two. Get ready to go. Open mixture. Here we are, full forward magnetos on. I think that's it for that starter and boost. There we go. And close those flaps. Just beautiful sound. Let's pull the throttle back. That sounds great. So let's take as you know, often we are flying with the air traffic control that's in game today. And we're going to be departing to the east. So let's get the taxi service here. No, it's that. Let's just have a quick look at the charts. So we're here. We're going to be coming along here and taking off on runway 25, which is great. Now, often in Flight Simulator, they don't have the taxiways matching the real taxiway nomenclature, but it looks like we're pretty good here. Whiskey 34, Whiskey 2, Whiskey 31, right down to 25. Looks pretty good. Now, let's close the door here. So we're all set. Won't close the canopy yet. I will put on our automated air traffic control. There's a lot to do when flying, so I like to have the automated air traffic control handle as much as possible for me so I can fly. Plus, you've flown along with me before in the Spitfire, you know there's no autopilot, so there's lots of work. Let's just jump out for a second, and you'll see I do use that blue chevron line to show us where to taxi to, and I do that because not, as I mentioned, not always is the nomenclature the same, so I want to make sure that I'm going exactly where ATC has wanted me to go, so we get to the right spot to take off. So our oil temperatures come up to 40, that's great. Everything looks fine. Parking brake off. And a salute to the marshal. And we're ready to go. What a beautiful sound this plane makes. Turn her around. Now, one of the, if you've flown with me before in the Spitfire, you'll know. You can obviously tell here that the nose is high. It's because it's a tail dragger. Very difficult to see where you're going when we're taxiing. So we make S turns so we can look to see where we are. Plus you can stick your head out the side of the canopy to see what's going on. I did see here, this notes where the end of the runway is, where we're going. This plane here is an actual plane. I have the parameters in the simulation to do live air traffic. So that is actually a plane that you can look up live. It just went over us. There he is. You'll notice also that I do stop chatting with you when we're receiving ATC. When we're receiving air traffic control ATC communication. And that's because I want to hear what's going on, obviously. Sometimes the calls are for us, so I need to be able to react to air traffic control. And sometimes the calls are not for us, but it's nice to know what's going on. Situational awareness. And even with air traffic control, they're giving you instructions. The main rule is aviate, navigate, communicate. Here's another plane here. Just see their lights. Kind of cool. Interesting. Sometimes the simulation takes me on these little detours. It does for everybody. I would have chose a different route. You see here, we were up here. I would have gone straight out. However, we obeyed ATC. Be interesting to see. That plane is actually coming in here. Lots of planes over at the hangar there, about 11 o'clock. Alitalia, KLM. And when you've flown commercially, you've probably felt this, as many of us do, that the taxi out to the runway is the longest part of the flight, and it certainly seems like it. So that is an Air France plane coming in. We'll get another look at it. Air Canada plane sitting over there also. One of the gates. One thing you don't want to do is taxi too fast in a tail dragger, and this our Spitfire. So you do have to brake. You can dive the nose. You saw that actually happened when we stopped short for that plane from the air traffic control instructions. So yes, that's an Air France coming in. That plane will be off the runway by the time we get ready to go, I'm assuming. Yeah, not sure if you can hear that. I can in my headset. But when I look to the right, everything comes in my left ear, the speaker, where the engine is. If I look to the left, everything's in my right ear. Hopefully you're picking that up in stereo on your computer. I need to give it a little bit more gas here. I was being a little bit too cautious on the speed of our taxi. So we are, once we take off, we'll go to about 500 feet. Above ground level. You can see here we're at 300. So we'll go to about 800 feet, and then we'll make our left turn and start heading over to Turin. Windsock here. Very little breeze today, so it's not moving too much, which is great. Another windsock over here. And those should be marked actually on the chart. Let's go straight here for a second. See if they are marked on the chart. There's one, and there's the other. It's very different taxiing doing these S-turns than it is in a general aviation plane of today, such as a Cessna or Beechcraft, which will join me in some of my flights, or commercial planes such as A320, B787, 737, etc. You can see right out the front of the window, no problem, the window of the cockpit, and no need for all these S-turns. I would imagine in World War II, as they parked mostly on grass fields, England, later on the continent, they didn't have that far to go. Here's another plane out here, right there. They didn't have that far to go from where they parked their plane to the end of the runway. Obviously, that's for tactical reasons. So they wouldn't have had to worry about too many S-turns. Two planes out there now. Busy day here in Paris. Okay, those planes are out a little bit, so we do have to hustle here, but it's not crucial that we go too fast to get out here. As always, we will leave the canopy back while we're taking off. That's for safety reasons. And then we'll put the canopy forward and over us once we get going. Try to get these tail draggers heading straight down the runway. Tough to see, but kind of check a little bit to the right and left where we are. Okay, let's go. Gently move the throttle forward. What a beautiful sound. And it's just gentle movements here. Okay, rotate. Airborne, wheels up. Let's have a quick look. It's Paris over here. There's the Eiffel Tower right there. It's downtown Paris to the left of the Eiffel Towers. And we're passing 800 feet. Here's the altimeter here. Okay, I think we're fine now. Let's put that canopy. What a difference. What a difference that makes. So I've pulled the boost back to 4. Let's pull the RPMs back to 2600. Close enough. Okay. Our heading is 090. So let's roll out here. And there's Orly Airport. One last look here. The Eiffel Tower is right here. So let's bring up the chart. And zoom in here. We're almost there, so they're being on our ley line. So I'm going to turn to 131 and start heading off to Torino. Some people say, well, you're excuse me, why do you use the moving map? Well, there, as we move out, we'll have less ATC. Okay, there we go. uh, okay. The old warbirds don't have any navigational instruments other than the compass, just right down here. Nothing from today's modern era, the VORs, NDBs, etc. So I can't tune anything into the I can't tune anything into the plane for navigation. So a lot of pilots today, we will use tablets. We will use tablets that contains all the charts that we would need worldwide, actually. So when you're in next time you're in an airport, you're previously, and you've seen the pilots lugging behind them this big bag that would contain all the charts that they would require for where they're flying, and they were all paper. Today, it is electronic. It's all on the tablet. So that's what we're using. So over here, triangle shows us where we are. I'm a little bit to the right of where I want to be on that ley line, but still okay. So I'll keep checking that on and off through the flight. I do have, in the simulation, I have it set to show us some interesting sights, because sometimes on our trips we see something and we want to take a little detour to have a look at it. That one we won't be, but that's why that popped up. So we are today going to be flying above 10,000 feet. So we're going to need to put our oxygen mask on when we do get there. Right here, we're at about 5,600, 5,700 now. We're climbing about 800, 1,000 feet per minute. And when we get above 12,000 feet, we will have to put our fuel pumps on. But this red light will come on should I not do it, just to warn me that it needs to be done. So we should be just over an hour flight time getting down to Turin. And the countryside will turn from this, what looks like agriculture here, southeast of Paris. So let's just see if we can zoom in here and have a look at this chateau. Beautiful. And that is why I have those labels on, so we can pick up places that you're not aware of when you're not flying around your home. So we're going to be transitioning. I'll just leave this up in the corner here so we can have a look at it all the time. Going to be transitioning from this, it looks like agricultural use into the mountains. I said hopefully we have these high clouds that we have here in the mountains all the way, so that we get a great view of the mountains, the Alps. This is a great plane to fly. She is a little touchy though. You have to keep a constant eye out, which I'm doing anyway. I'm always scanning the instruments to make sure of what's going on. It's like being in a car. I don't know why that's twitching today. It's a little bit annoying. I don't know why. Sorry, it's like flying. Flying is like being in a car for situational awareness. You're looking at the windshield, then you're checking your rearview mirror, then you're checking out the windshield again, looking around, checking your rearview mirror that's in the car, looking out the front again. I will often be looking around. First of all, there's another chateau down there. Just missed the label, but there it is there. First of all, I'll be looking for other planes, situational awareness for that. Second of all, I will try and do some sightseeing. But I'm always scanning the instruments. I'm looking at our airspeed, our altimeter, so how high we are, our rate of climb, the RPMs, the boost, and actually now that I'll leave it. I was going to change the mixture, but not yet. It's going to leave the mixture back a bit, lean it out, but a little too early to do that. We're still climbing. I'm going to climb to about 17,000 feet. And then we'll leave it there. That equates to 1013 metric, so we don't need to change them. See here, we're going to pass 10,000 feet. The little hand is pointing to the 1. Let's get the oxygen flowing to turn the valve on. and then turn this valve on. There we go. This is the oxygen supply, and this is another gauge for altitude. You can see here 10,000 feet, and we're just past 10,000 feet. And I'm going to put the fuel pump on now. There. That way the pressure will be fine when we get above 12,000 feet. So you can see how touchy she is to fly. I look around sometimes and you'll notice that we're not, we change direction a bit, or we don't climb as fast as we were, or can actually start descending. So lots of things to pay attention to when we're flying the Spitfire, but we're a little bit. We were a little bit to the right of the ley line, so I'm going to try to fly a little bit towards it. One of the great things we can do in flight sim, which you can't do in the real world, is we can get out of the plane and actually look at it as we're flying along here. It's beautiful. And there's that red light here. Let us know we needed to put the pressure on, fuel pressure, but we've already done that, so we're okay. Having checked the weather today, it looked like it was very clear all the way to our destination of Turin. So I don't anticipate any turbulence today. The sim actually does have real world weather, and it's very possible to get turbulence. And we're just about back on the line, which is great. So I'll continue to fly about 130, which is where we're here. Try to anyway. It can be difficult sometimes, but that's one of the joys of flying the Spitfire. So we're just passing 14,200 feet. Little hand is past the 1. Gives you the 10,000. So you can see why there's a lot of air traffic going on. I let the game handle that. The flight sim handle it, especially when they're flying without autopilot. As I did mention, I'm constantly scanning the instruments. That call sign of FFFFF, that's a glitch in the sim. I don't know who they are calling. I only get that when I've been in Europe flying. So you can see down here we're at 16,000, almost 16,400 feet. Up a little bit more, and we'll try to trim her out at 17,000 feet. I have found that more difficult to trim the Spitfire than is some of the modern planes. The idea of the trim is so that you don't always have to be putting pressure on the stick, whether it's forward pressure or back pressure, to hold her. To hold the plane straight and level. Because that actually does get very tiring, even in the simulation. It does get very tiring holding the joystick when you have to be having pressure on it all the time. So just try to keep it around 17. We're at 16.9 now. Don't want to go up too high because I want to have a really great look at the Alps as we go over them. But we can always head down should we need to. So now that we're up there, I'm going to pull the boost back to 2, which is our throttle over here. And I'm also going to put the mixture to about half. What that does is you're not using as much fuel. So you're conserving fuel, you're not working the engine as hard. Always good to conserve fuel, especially on long flights. We certainly have enough fuel today, more than enough to get to Turin, but there'll be one flight in this tour that we are going to be pushing the boundaries of the fuel tank, so we'll have to be very careful on how we fly and how fast we go. So I'm going to pull it back just, I think we're okay there. Boost of 2 RPM, just about 2400. That's good. Now I am having to pull back on the stick a bit, so keep on giving it a little bit of up trim, just so that when I release the stick, the back pressure on the stick, we're going to stay around the 17,000 feet. But let's see where we are on pretty good on the map there, where we should be a little bit to the right side of that ley line, but that's okay. Not too bad off. Depending on the winds that you're getting, how strong they are in the direction, you can be blown very far to the right or left of your ley line, and you're always correcting. Still very much in an agricultural zone. If you haven't flown with me before, I'll let you know that the countryside that you're seeing and any scenery you're seeing is picked up from big maps, use satellite. So this is exactly what it looks like. It's not computer generated. So you see roads where they are, buildings where they are. The buildings actually look the way they do. It is, I think, absolutely incredible. One of the first things when this version of Flight Sim came out in August of 2020, when people got their hands on it, they flew to find their home, as I did. And sure enough, there it was. So pretty incredible. You can actually make it out. So when you're flying around where you live, it's phenomenal because you actually do recognize all the buildings, all the roads. It's almost like being an air traffic reporter. Maybe that's a flight we'll do one day, is air traffic reporting. So you can see we've climbed a little bit, 17.1. So I'll let it come down just a little here. Constantly trying to trim the plane out so that I don't have to hold back on the stick too much, because it does get tiring. It's not a bumpy ride today. It's very smooth, but when it's a bumpy ride, lots of turbulence, that will add to the strain on your arm. And yes, you can change from your right to your left hand or left to right, however you want to do that to give it a break, but it's still tiring. So it's best to try and trim it out. In modern planes, once it's trimmed, you could actually let go of the stick, the yoke, the pedals, and the plane should, in theory, not just in theory, it does in practice, fly straight and level. And this old Warbird, which I love flying, the Spitfire, doesn't do that. Or at least I have a tough time getting it to be in that position. So one of the beauties and challenges of flying this plane. You can see that we got a little bit further away from Paris. The chatter over ATC reduced also. As we get closer to Geneva, I'm sure the chatter will pick up a little bit, not as much as Paris. There are two main airports in Paris, Orly, where we took off from, which is on the south side of Paris, and Charles de Gaulle, which is on the north side of Paris. So lots of traffic in and out. Paris is obviously a major hub. So we've climbed a bit. I'm going to try to bring her back down to the 17,000. Nothing magical about that 17,000 today. It's just the number that I chose that we should be flying at based on safe altitude crossing the Alps. I'm just going to push here. That's the fuel gauge. The fuel gauge in the Spitfire is off. You have to push that button to actually determine how much fuel we have. So that's what I did just to check it. We're fine. And you can see just by moving your eyes down, and I moved this down to check the fuel button. I pulled back on the stick and we actually climbed to 17,000, just over 300. So I'll let her descend just quietly, comfortably, just about 200-300 feet per minute until we get to the 17,000. I'm doing that. Check. So we've gone a little bit to the right now. So I want to fly a little bit. 131 was the heading out of Paris. So fly about 135 right now. You can see we're on about 131. You'll find several actions working on the plane. In the straight and level flight here, if we were to increase our throttle, we would climb. If we were to decrease our throttle, we would descend. If we wanted to slow the plane down, we don't touch the throttle, but we pull back on the stick to climb. And if we wanted to speed up, accelerate, we would actually push forward on the stick without changing the throttle. But when you have the throttle set and you're not changing it, the RPMs are set, which is your propeller, then it's just a matter of trimming the plane out. Looks a little more forest here, so probably getting to be more hills as we approach the Alps. We've got a long way to go before we get to the Alps. As I said, hopefully it's a clear day over the Alps, or at least no clouds where we are and below. We're doing this flight mid-May, actually May 15th. So there still should be snow on the top of the Alps. The simulation does, I mentioned earlier, live weather. So if you have clouds, that's what the clouds you're seeing are a representation of what so the clouds will be a representation of what is actually happening where you are in the world. But we'll also get precipitation. Could be rain, could be snow. If there's a thunderstorm, you're going to get that. And with snow, if you're getting enough snow, the rate per hour, it will actually accumulate on the ground. So I've had it where that does happen. I've flown out of one airport in a commercial flight in the A320. And it's been nice weather, a short haul flight, maybe an hour and a half, 45-minute to an hour turnaround, fly back to my originating airport. The snow had started and now the runway was covered with snow. So pretty cool that they're doing that in the game. You'll hear me refer to it as a game. It really isn't. It is a simulator. Some of the planes that I fly are actually study level. I would put this Spitfire just below study level. But so getting back to the snow on the runway, it does make it slippery. So you have to be careful on how you actually go about turning, slowing down, etc. when you're on the ground. Now it's interesting. Hopefully we have a good landing today. This Spitfire can be a handful landing her. Sometimes I grease it, other times not so much. That's the beauty of the simulation. So we're still 290902. Right here, the 1013 from metric. So we're okay. Don't need to change that. I'll tell you about that in a second. But it's one of the beauties of the game is you don't have to be perfect. Although that's what we strive to do. But if you mess up a little bit, not the end of the world. So the altimeter is the pressure. So you hear in your local radio or TV forecasts, they'll give the pressure at 29902, the barometer, so they call it rising, falling, give an indication of the weather coming in, whether the weather will be improving or deteriorating. Well, that pressure will have an effect on the altitude as measured by this gauge here. So you have to make sure that that barometer, the altitude right here, is set to what you are told by air traffic control. And you're thinking, well, what's the difference when you're at 17,000 feet? Well, if you don't have your altitude and the barometer set correctly, your altimeter set correctly, you could be flying at 15,000 feet. That's a little bit much. Let's say 16,000 feet. When you think you're flying at 17,000 feet, because the gauge says 17, well, you've got a plane coming towards you, and they are flying at 17,000 feet, or 16,000 feet rather. So, not a good situation. You want to be able to have confidence in your instrument. So that's why we're always checking it. Now, above 18,000 feet around the world, and actually that's the standard in North America where I am. It can be lower in different places of the world. It's called a transition altitude, where you change to a standard pressure. So above 18,000 feet, you change the altimeter here to be 2992 or 1013 if you're in Europe. And everybody flies on that standard pressure above 18,000 feet. Again, it's for safety reasons. So I've really moved to the right here, or you're looking at it there, to the left of the ley line. So let's go to the right here. A little bit, try to about 140 degrees. The wind is actually pushing me off. There we go, 140, a little bit more. The wind is actually pushing us to the left today, so the wind is coming from our right. There's a city there. See if we can see what that city is. Is anything? Here we are, Dijon. Right there. That's the city that's down there. Oh, and it should show you on this map here. You can see it does have the lakes, rivers. The white are the highways, etc. So you can follow along on specific highways if that's your goal. You can see the land is becoming a little more hilly now. Still some agriculture. So I did climb a bit there. So descending. A little bumpy. I don't think it's turbulence. I think that's me. I'd like to blame it on the turbulence, but that was me looking around. And it's a little different here. I don't have virtual, or not virtual reality, but there are headsets that you can get that will track your eye movements. So you can leave your hand exactly where it is while you're flying. And by that I mean right on the joystick or the yoke. So it doesn't move. Most of us, well, when you don't have that kind of setup, I fly with the joystick or the yoke in my right hand, but then I have to move it to my left if I want to use any keyboard keys to do something, or I want to use the mouse to look around, and that can cause, look around here, the plane to pitch up or down, turn left or right, usually not yaw, which is move left and right, not turn left and right around an axis. I'll show you actually what yaw looks like here. Just yaw to the right. There. We're turning around an axis, but we're not turning it. Not very good. It's for coordinated flight. And look at how far off we got on the compass here. We're at 15, 150 by doing that. So there's the city of Dijon. I'm assuming it's what the mustard is named after, but don't quote me on that. I have no basis in fact at all for making that statement, but let's just go with it. Actually, once we come to the mountains, we don't have that long to go. And it's unfortunate I haven't been able to fly as much as I've wanted to in the last month or so. Life, unfortunately, does get in the way of this great hobby. Work had some things to take care of around the house. And I also had some technical issues. I have done this flight. This is actually the third time I'm doing it and recording it, but technical issues, so I couldn't finish the flight. So hopefully today we'll be able to finish the flight. And I'm hoping to be able to get back doing some more of our around the world in 80 flights, Operation Jules Verne. Today is one of the days I mentioned earlier of the most altitude that we'll have to gain going over the Alps. We'll have to gain altitude again when we get to North America, when we leave the west coast, start heading inland. It's been a while since I've looked at the route, but I believe the route is there, Seattle up to Calgary. So we'll have to climb it over the Rockies there. And then leaving North America, way up in Canada, in Labrador and Newfoundland. It's the province, Newfoundland and Labrador. So we'll be way up in Labrador, heading over to Greenland, and then from Greenland over to Iceland. A couple of stretches there of great distance because there isn't airports that we can go to readily. So we're going to have to fly higher because the higher you fly, usually it's modeled in these planes, the less fuel you use because there's less air resistance. The higher you go, the air is thinner. So you want to climb up. We can get up to about 40,000 feet, maybe a little bit more. 42 is the ceiling in the Spitfire. We won't be going that high. But I will have to check out to see how the fuel is modeled in this plane. So that one may be the highest that we go that flight. So this is one of the three flights where we'll be up at this level. Normally we'll be down a lot lower. And a little bit more scenic. For example, the next leg on this tour, like Flight 3, will take us from Turin to the east coast of Italy to Pescara. And Pescara happens to be where one of my very close friends was born. They live in Canada now, but they were born there. So I said, sure, when I'm doing this around the world Operation Jules Verne, I'm happy to use your home airport so you can see what it looks like today. It's been a while since they've been back to Italy. But the reason I mention that is Pescara is on the east coast of Italy. On the west coast, almost at the same latitude, is Rome. So we're going to head from Turin down to Rome and then over to Pescara. But we are going to descend so we can see some of the sights in Rome, the Colosseum, the Vatican, hopefully, etc. We'll see what we can pick up. Same way we did when we flew into Paris. We flew around the Eiffel Tower, the Champs-Élysées. So if you haven't seen that video, that was Flight 1 of Operation Jules Verne. Have a look. Towards the end, we get to fly around Paris. We're going to do the same thing for Rome. Have a good look at some of the sites. It'd be a shame to be doing this tour and then miss some of the sites along the way. Although it's Flight Sim, I can go wherever I want, start wherever I want in the world. But we try to keep it as authentic as possible. So let's just check. First thing is the fuel. Still full tanks. Reason it's full tanks, they've got extra tanks on this plane. And the fuel uses from the extra tanks first, so it doesn't register any fuel coming out of the original two tanks until I've drained the extra tanks. So it looks like, here's the Alps right there. I thought I saw them a little while ago. I think this is the Alps and not a cloud line. It can be very difficult to tell the difference sometimes. But that looks more like mountain right here with snow on top. So we'll see. Just check our map at Navigraph again. Oh, I've moved way to the south. It's how easy it is to get off your ley line. And you certainly want to be on the ley line. And that's because, obviously, there are obstacles out there, whether it's mountains or if you're doing a lot of low and slow, there are buildings. And you set your course and your altitude based on safe altitudes that are on those charts from Skyvector that we looked at in the beginning. And 17,000 may be a safe route on the ley line. It may not be a safe route if we're even 5 miles off the ley line going through the Alps. So try to keep it there. You can see here we're at about 122 degrees, so we should be heading into that ley line. And there you are. See, we're heading towards it. Should be. These are the Alps on the east side of Lake Geneva. And then they'll really climb in altitude when we go to the west side of Lake Geneva. Head to Italy. Yeah. Mountains, snow in the mountains. Good, let's hope this weather stays and the clouds stay above us. So we're back on the line. Right on the line, actually. So we're almost there. So I'm going to try and keep that at 130, which I've been trying to do, but you can see how finicky the Spitfire is. How much concentration it takes to fly. I can't imagine. Well, I can actually, because I've done it, not in real life here. It takes a lot to fly like this. When you're in a dogfight, oh, that's a great call sign, Vampire. I have not heard that one before. When you're in a dogfight, you fly by the seat of the pants. So totally different flying. Yeah, I have not heard Vampire as a call sign. That is pretty cool. One of my two favorite call signs. One, British Airways. They have Speedbird as their call sign. So instead of saying British Airways 227, they say Speedbird 227. The other one is for South African Airways, and they are Springbok. There are a number of call signs used around the world that are not the name of the airline. There's a plane up here, way above us. Just depends on the airline, what they want to do. There's another plane right here. We're getting close to Geneva. That one's probably coming out of Geneva. That actually could have been the Vampire call sign. That may be one of my favorites now. Never heard that. VMP, Vampire 944. I wonder who it is. I'll have to look that up, who uses the vampire call sign. You can see how easy it is. We were on the ley line, now we're to the left of it as we're flying southeast. River here. I wonder if this must be Lake Geneva. Maybe not. Maybe we're too soon. Let's have a look over here. Zoom out a bit. No, it could be Lake Geneva that we're seeing. Maybe. Yeah, tough to say. As you can see, just pulling back on the stick, didn't realize I was doing it. Looking at the chart there, we've climbed to 17,500 feet. So I'll let her descend. Get back to the 17,000 feet. No, that is Lake Geneva. So it curls around to the east. So Geneva should be to our right when we get up here. So we are a little bit above the ley line. As we see here, not much, but just a little. So the airport and the city of Geneva should be off to our right. Sense is it's here. That looks like a city there. There's a tall peak. We certainly want to stay at our 17,000 feet. Looks like a road going right over the mountain there. Yes, that is Lake Geneva. You can see even in straight and level flight here, it's tough to see over the nose of the plane. I can actually simulate I can simulate if I just looked up a little bit. If I made myself a little more erect. That's Geneva down to our right here. And that's Lake Geneva. Okay, so we don't have to change the altimeter, which is great. Going over the Alps, we're set. That's beautiful. Sometimes I've had people comment too. Sorry, just look at the scratches on the canopy here. It's amazing how they model these work there. These planes, they are right down to the finest detail. I have had people comment to me when I've shown the pictures and said, I didn't realize, if you didn't tell me, I would not have known that that was not real. It was a simulator. It was a game versus real life. The level of realism with Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, which I mentioned before, it came out in August of 2020, has just taken the game to a new level, which is why you will find me doing a lot of general aviation flying, which is where you start your career actually in Flight Sim. Now, there isn't a career mode in the game, but you start off learning to fly on the smaller planes. And actually, I am contemplating, and I will do a series for you on learning to fly, give you a taste of what it's about, just some flight lessons with you. Now, unfortunately, you can't sit in the plane with me and take it over, but what I will do is record, tell you what I'm doing, what you need to do. You can watch the video a number of times and then give it a try until you get proficient. Move on to the next video that will help you. I learned on my own, which was great, but if I can accelerate it or help you out, that would be fantastic. Looks like this is the airport right here. Right there. Geneva Airport. This is the main runway, and the offshoots are the taxiways. The exits. Again, 299. So here we are here, Geneva down here. We're crossing a little higher than I thought we would, but still fine. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Boom. So we're still okay in the altimeter. Lots of air traffic right now. It's tough to chat with you. You see the folded mountains on the east side of Geneva. Now, one thing I can do is if I miss a call, and that's why I keep this ATC open, although I can open it up here too, I can just expand that and I can get the call of where we are, what needs to be done. I will be opening that up later as we get closer to Turin, because I'm going to have to get instructions on landing, what runway they're using, etc. Let's have a look back here. Ah, there's great. There's the airport. Good view of it now. Geneva. We're going to get back on our course here. We're a little bit up from it. So if we can, let's bring that up. So I'm looking at that mountain. It's right in front of us. And we probably will be to the right side of that mountain, the south side. want to go through on that ley line. As I said, the wind is pushing us right to left today, so let's have a look up. And again, Lake Geneva, the folded mountains. And there's a nice view of the city again, the airport. So if you like these flights, like more of them, the only way I know that you'd like to see more of them is if you subscribe, give me the thumbs up, tell me you like these videos so I'm going to make more of them. You subscribe, helps grow the channel, which is great. And I enjoy doing these videos, sharing this hobby, this lifelong passion of aviation with you. Yes, it does look like we should be to the south of that mountain. So that's where we're going to be. Now, if any of you know why we're getting a flicker on our map there, go ahead and leave it in the comments, please. Yeah, please leave it in the comments. I do read the comments, so great to know on your take on what it is. Mountains are beautiful. We do have some snow, as we should for this time of year. If we came through here in January, it should be very snow covered all over the place, and it probably was. Excuse me. Natural tendency here, you can see we're climbing a bit, is to pull back on that stick and climb to get above the mountains, even though we should be fine at 17,000 feet according to the charts. It just doesn't look it. So I'm going to try and bring it back down to 17. Trust the charts, trust our instruments. But we will use the old adage, aviate, navigate, communicate. If we get there and 17 isn't good, we will climb. The folds on those mountains here and the shadows from the peaks there and over here. Phenomenal. I'm going to put this map down so that we can get a good look. Around. We'll try to do a bit of sightseeing here without getting us in trouble. see here, over here, there's a lake. My goodness, a lot of air traffic chatter for us at the moment. So tough to tell whether these are roads or rivers coming down the mountain there. Probably rivers. But in the simulator here, if you fly past an area that is a ski resort, you will actually see all of the ski runs. Pretty cool. Now that might be, it is Mont Blanc. Chamonix, Mont Blanc. Very famous mountain in the Swiss Alps. Chamonix is where I believe the Winter Olympics were held at one point. But they may not have been. But that is Mont Blanc. I believe a lot of mountain climbing goes on at Mont Blanc. So, look from out here, it gets a little bit noisy, but incredible. This should be Chamonix down here, Mont Blanc. And that looks like a glacier. Let's get back in the plane. 2 reasons. One, it's quieter, but look at how many feet we fell just doing that. Just because it is very tricky to keep here. Everything flying straight and level. And you think you're doing it, but you're not. Beautiful sight. Be interesting to fly back here in July and August, see how much snow has disappeared. I'm sure none of it will be gone from the top of Mount Blanc. The Tremblant is a ski resort north of Montreal, off of Mont Blanc. Look at the map here. And zoom out a bit so we can see. Yeah, we don't have far to go now at all, which is great. We're doing very. Put my head right against the canopy here. We can see. I don't want to put it right on the canopy. The shaking just give me one. Altimeter still set, so that's great. Yeah, if this was a real plane, I'd put my head on the canopy here and shake like crazy, and I'm sure that would be Migraine City. Don't want to do that. So let's see, we're getting close. It's still way too soon to start descending. Let's see if we can get here, nearest airport. Montblanc actually has an airport also. Albertville? Olympics were held there. That I know. No, we're a little bit too far out. There we are, there, IMF. Oh, that's it. IMF, but we will go back here. We won't make that call yet. So when we do get closer, we will call the airport. They'll let us know. I'll let them know we want to land, full stop landing, not a touch and go. And they'll give us instructions. They'll give us instructions on what runway they want us to land on. And we'll look here. This is the airport in Turin. You see it's a north-south runway. So we'll wait till we get a little closer before we call into the airport. We'll just stretch up here. Well, let's stay up 17,000 feet. See, again, we did climb. Once we get past this other ridge, then we'll start to descend. No lights on the Spitfire, so we don't have to worry about any of that as we're going up, going down, ascending, descending, etc. But we will, as we pass 12,000 feet on our descent, we will turn off the fuel pressure gauge. As we pass 10,000 feet, we won't need our oxygen anymore. So we'll turn the oxygen off. We can take the mask off and just see if we can get out, get close in. Here, I just took a picture. That was the darkening of the screen that you saw. Sorry, I could hear the engine was different and we were climbing. The darkening of the screen you saw, and I had to take two hands off the hand off the joystick and two hands on the keyboard to do that. And we started to climb. So let's just fix that. So once we get past this little ridge here, we'll call the airport. You can just see the top of the dot here. So we'll call the airport and we'll find out what runway we're going to be landing on. Start our descent. As I mentioned, we'll probably go past the airport and then circle as need be to lose altitude. And get in the pattern. One thing I want to do, a little small, let's just make this a little bigger now. The altitude right there, 925 feet for the airport. So you can see here we're coming past this ridge. And again, it's climbed. I let her climb up. It's so difficult when you're not actually in the cockpit. So airport's closer to us now. IMF. And we're going to request a full stop. So we're going to be heading into the south on runway 18. The wind will be from our right at 7 knots. Not a lot for a crosswind, but in the Spitfire tail drag plane, it can be. And we'll see how we do. So I'm going to start our descent now. And pull the boost back to 0 right here. Just pulling our throttle back. We'll start descending. Just passed through 17. Now we're at 16,800. And you can see our airspeed is climbing. We were around 200 knots, or actually miles per hour, old school. We're up to 240, and we're fine. You can see here, get up to 480. We won't be doing that, but we're descending at 3,000 feet a minute, so you can really feel it. If we were actually in the real plane, let's just stretch here to look out the front. So it's going to be a combination of, where are we on the chart? Looking for the airport. Should be right in front of us. Bring the boost back again, down to 4. Beautiful. The other thing we can do is airport direction. So it should be out here somewhere. I don't mind it being at 11 o'clock. I get a good visual on it. You can see here now we're just 12,500. When this light goes out, we'll then turn the fuel pressure valve off. There, it's gone out. We don't need this valve on anymore, so that's off. Still need the fuel on though. Not the fuel, rather the oxygen, because we are above 10,000 feet. I'll soon take that off, the mask off. Look at the winding road right up the back of this mountain, right up the ridge. So I don't see the airport yet. So let's ask again now where it is. That should be out here. I'm thinking this is it here. That's it right there. So we're about 8,500 feet now. So we can turn this off. We don't need that. Take the mask off. Turn the valve off. Don't know if you heard it squeaking. Oh, maybe we can descend. I'm going to head to south a bit. Oh, here's a golf course. I head south a bit just so that we can bleed off some speed. And there's the mountain. Oh, look at the homes nestled right in here. Very pretty. And there's the airport there. So let's we turn back to the north. They wanted us to make left base. And so we shall. This way. Let's go to 360 degrees. And because the nose of this plane is so high, we have to come in on an angle to the runway. There's the runway there. Remember, the altitude was 925, so 1,000 feet. We're at 3,500 feet now. I do want to start bleeding some speed, so first of all, I want to put the mixture up and the prop up. Always have mixture on full rich to land, and prop on full to land. So we're still descending. It's great. Under the runway. I don't wonder if there's some lights there to help guide me in. Let me just have a look, see if they actually note them here. Should be. I believe they do have lights. So there's the airport there. So we want to pull back on the stick. Sorry, not the stick, on the throttle. We really reduce the speed here. Keeping my eyes up to the top right of the screen, so I can actually see the airport. There it is there. Okay, flaps down, gear down. You can see it really has a movement here. When you do that in both at the same time, normally wouldn't do that. This light is just a beacon to the airport. So wind will be from our right at 7. Hopefully we won't have any mishaps. Here's the lights here I was talking about. Really want to get them at 2 white, 2 red. They're pappy lights, they're called. And that's when you're on the glide slope. I've got 1 red the moment I saw. Sorry, I said 1 red. I meant 1 white. Means I'm a little low. I'm still fine. At 3 red, 4 red. I am low, but we're doing okay here. Drop the nose just a little again. It's the runway. And over the threshold, cut power, and just bring her down slowly. Oh, 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 oh. That's the brakes gently. You can see it is no difficult to land this plane. One thing I didn't do was open that canopy for our landing. I should have done that for safety. I just put the flaps up. Well, we're down. Not a great landing. But a landing nonetheless that we could walk away from. Very difficult to land this plane. But the more you do it, the more practice, the better I'll get. But we didn't do too bad. But I wasn't impressed. So, brake here. It looks like the simulation has it's going to a gate. We'll change that in a second to a parking spot. Turn it into ground. And we want to go to a parking spot, not a gate. Oh, there we go, off to the right. Excellent. And pull up the map here. And there we are. We're going right in here. Came off at Yankee 2. And we're going up here. Oh, I apologize for that bit of a rough landing. Flight was pretty good up until then. Hopefully you'll come back and fly with me again on Flight 3 down to Pescara via Rome. And hopefully the technical issues won't plague me. But it has in the past. See, one of the flights I mentioned, this is my third time. Second time I tried to fly this flight, I got all the way here. And I was coming in and getting ready to park. And the whole sim just crashed on me. Just went to my desktop. Don't know why. So, a couple of hours worth of flight time lost. And of course, the recording for you was lost also. So there's our marshals. One thing, the marshals will sometimes stand in the way. Kind of silly. Oh, hit the brakes too hard. Kind of silly, but they do, so they won't move out of the way. Sometimes you just have to fly right through them. I don't know if they'll ever get a patch for that. You can actually turn them on and off. I think it's nice actually to have the marshals on. And the traffic. So here we are trying to brake here without too much. So there we go. Parking brake. Let's bring up the checklist. Do they have one? Approach. They don't have one. So we know over here, throttle and down. That'll cut the engine. There we go. Let's open the door and we can get out. So again, thank you for flying Flight 2 of Around the World in 80 Flights. There's the mountains we just came through. And next time, I believe we're going to be heading off in this direction. And it won't be long before we're out actually over the Mediterranean. So until next time, as always, Thank you for flying with me, and 3 green and blue skies.